Welcome to Talking Tottenham Tactics, as I review our 2-1 loss at home to Liverpool at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We slumped to another loss at home as the Reds put us to the sword in a game marred by poor refereeing on the whole, as two Lily Whites got their marching orders. Xavi Simons saw a straight red for his 33rd minute tackle on his Netherlands skipper Virgil van Dijk. His captain for Spurs, Romero, got his second yellow for kicking out Konate after being fouled in the 3rd minute of extra time. In the meantime, Alexander Isak opened his account for Liverpool in the 56th minute, and Van de Ven was lucky not to get sent off in the process, as his tackle scissored around Isak's ankle, resulting in what we now know to be a fracture. Bentancur was also lucky not to get punished for getting Isak in the thigh. I'll start with Spurs' lineup and attacking patterns. Something we saw in this game that we hadn't seen much of before is the high number of progressive central midfielders compared to other games. Specifically Xavi, Bergvall and Gray in the same starting lineup, as well as Muani being played as a central striker. This resulted in a marked improvement in our attacking patterns of play. In the first minute, Van de Ven sends a ball down the left flank to Muani, who flicks the back heel into Xavi, who touches a one-touch pass to Bergvall. Unfortunately, Bergvall dummies and lets the ball roll back, but if he spots Kudus here, Kudus receives the ball in space with 3 players that can run into the box, and another that can lurk outside of it. In the 2nd minute, Romero finds Bergvall in the centre of the pitch with a pinpoint lob, but Bergvall spurns the chance to pass to Xavi. As an aside, I'll make this comment about Bergvall. He is excellent in positioning himself outside of possession, and that's why he's always receiving the ball in dangerous positions. What he does need is better decision making when he gets the ball, and that's a function of better scanning. Generally, when we talk about scanning, we typically mean players scanning to ensure that they are able to receive the ball safely and where the immediate threats to them are. The very best players do this, as well as scan for the next action they can take after receiving the ball, whether it's finding a teammate with a pass or carrying the ball into space. Bergvall is getting better and better at first order scanning, but needs lots more minutes to develop second order scanning, and considering he was voted the fans' favourite player last season, his minutes this season have been hard to come by. Giving him a lot more minutes than anticipated last season due to the injury crisis greatly accelerated his development, and we would do well to continue on that trajectory, as the ceiling is high and we need the creativity in the middle. Another trend for this match was the progressive carrying by Spence. This is one of his best games for us from an attacking perspective, and it's something he could offer on the right wing as an alternative to Porro if we get cover for Udogie. In this move, Xavi receives from Spence after the progressive carry, and passes it out wide to Kudus. Kudus' cross is blocked, and considering our attacking options in the box are Xavi, Muani and Spence, it's a questionable decision to cross rather than playing out wide to Porro or spreading it to Bergvall. In this move, Porro pings a vertical ball to Kudus, who brings it under control with a magical first touch. Unfortunately, he doesn't spot Muani's run, and doesn't have the confidence to play that pass, which further brings into focus how spoilt we have been, having had players like Kane, Son, Eriksen, Van der Vaart and Modric in our recent history who would have made that pass instinctively. In this move, we have Spence flicking the ball through Szoboszlai's legs to Gray, who then carries it and finds Kudus with a diagonal. Kudus controls it with his chest and carries the ball, playing a 1-2 with Xavi. At this point, he shoots through a crowd of players when Bergvall and Spence have an overload on the left wing. And while Kudus has been a source of creativity early this season, the continued reliance on him has made him feel like he has to do everything on his own, even now when there are teammates in better positions to help him. In this attack, Kudus plays a diagonal to Porro with the perfect weight. Porro fires the ball across the box, which Spence is unlucky to miss. In this particular move, Romero pings a first-time ball over the top for Bergvall to chase. Bergvall tries to find Muani first time and is blocked. However, if he fakes the pass and cuts inside to take the defender out of the game, he would have had a much larger area of the field to aim into to find Muani. In the last significant attack of the half, Spence steals the ball from Bradley, then rampages upfield, all the way to the penalty area, and is unlucky to not win a penalty, though he does go down a little easily after initiating contact. That's why I thought he had one of the best attacking displays in the Spurs shirt. He was constantly looking to carry out from the back, and in the absence of Odobert, provided much needed threat and penetration down the left. Now, I'm going to take a break from analysing our attacking play to breaking down the first goal that we conceded. Bergvall wins the ball in our penalty box and carries it out to the middle third. He offloads the ball to Kudus on the right wing, and Kudus checks his run and assesses his options. Gray is very slow to get out and present himself as an option here. Out of options, Kudus checks back, eventually passing to Romero. At this point, Romero doesn't have any good forward options because none of the midfielders are showing for the ball. Bergvall I can understand because he carried the ball to the right and was staying there to provide options for Kudus. Gray and Bentancur need to do more here, either dropping in front of the men or running into space between the lines. Romero tries to play a hero ball to Muani with his weaker foot and hits McAllister. Instead of leaving Isaac to Van de Ven, Romero gets sucked in, trying to make immediate amends, leaving the space behind him completely open for Wirtz. Wirtz slides a perfect pass into Isaac, who finishes into the top corner. Now, it's easy to blame Romero for trying to do too much, but when he's scoring bicycle kicks and headers to win games, we're okay with it. Players like him are a double-edged sword. The competitiveness and drive that gets him to do things to win us games sometimes can be the anxiety to fix their mistakes that cost us. As a captain, he should have better control over his impulsiveness, but the midfield being too passive out of possession and not showing for the ball also frustrates him into making harder passes than he needs to in order to make something happen for us. At this point, it's clear to me that Romero is on tilt and will get sent off unless he's subbed or talked to. Here he is carrying the ball out from the back, passes the ball to Bergvall and continues his run into the centre forward position and stays there. He makes some centre forward style tackles, eventually bundling McAllister over. In this situation, a long ball by Vicario is flicked by Gray to Bentancur, who quickly plays in Muani. He carries the ball into the right half space and gets a deflected shot off that lands on the crossbar. I said for weeks that central ball progression is the key to improving the kinds of chances we create, and that Muani playing in the centre means that he can be in a more threatening position after he beats his men, rather than when he's out on the left and he beats a man and he has to, beat another two centre-backs. Moving on to the concession of our second goal, Frimpong is allowed to isolate Spence and rock foots him, then putting a cross for Ekitike. I don't think there can be any arguments here that this two-handed shove in the back should be a foul. Romero is yellow carded for his remonstrations to the referee, which will cost us in about 30 minutes. At this point, our attacking threat has largely diminished, mostly because we've taken off Kudus and Frimpong was occupying Spence defensively. We had also taken off Bergvall for Odobert and Gray for Paulinia. You can broadly see our main ways of progressing the ball into attacking areas are vertical passes to players in the wing. As such, we rely heavily on Kudus controlling aerial balls, then beating his men. This has been a pattern all season, and teams know how to prepare for this by man-marking Kudus. The difference this time is Kudus has Xavi and Bergvall to interplay with on the right rather than Porro, who has a better cross, but doesn't release the ball as quickly for bounce passes and 1-2s. The presence of Bergvall also helped as he would frequently run into space for passes from Romero, then make dummy runs and quick exchanges to progress the ball. Spence carries were another theme of our progressive play, and this was aided by the presence of other creative midfielders and ball carriers like Xavi, Bergvall and Gray, drawing defenders away from their movement. We had very little possession, with Liverpool happy to keep the ball until Richarlison came on. For all his limitations, he's the best agent of chaos we have, and when you're a man down in the game, chaos is needed to level the playing field. One of the first things he does is win a free kick off Gravenberch, then a corner off Van Dijk. From the resulting corner, Romero wins the header. Richarlison fights for the second ball, which falls to Johnson, whose shot is blocked. And Paulinia tries another shot, which goes into Kirkes. Eventually, Richarlison finishes into the bottom left-hand corner. And because it's Richarlison, he also needs to do things like this. As we press for the equalizer, Johnson and Richarlison press Liverpool into a mistake, and Johnson plays Richarlison into space. His shot is blocked as three defenders converge on him. Now to the second sending off. Romero is fouled, but his reaction is really stupid. He had been rampaging out of control since the second goal, so I was surprised that it actually took him this long to get sent off. In this scenario, Spence passes wide to Odobert. Odobert gets separation from his marker and sends in a cross that's cleared. Liverpool were there for the taking. Virgil van Dijk fails to clear a header properly. They let the ball bounce in front of Van de Ven. Paulinia has a shot blocked. Porro forces a save from Alisson, And in this last attack, we see what Odobert could offer if he had more minutes. He plays a 1-2 with Richarlison. Richarlison actually plays a good return ball into space, and Odobert crosses into the box. Alisson, however, manages to punch away. In conclusion, this game may have been disappointing and we will suffer from the suspensions to Romero and Xavi, but Frank finally took some risks and played Bergvall, Gray, Xavi in the same team. I would have preferred to play Odobert down the left, but in general, the ability of Xavi, Bergvall, Kudus, Spence and Gray to progress the ball through the middle with a mix of passing interplay and ball carrying meant we created more chances down the middle, even if players didn't always make the right choices due to lack of chemistry or understanding, and that will come with time. That said, the number of key passes into the box are still too low to provide enough service for our strikers. It's clear that reinforcements are needed to support the gaps left by injuries and the lack of balance in midfield, left back and right wing. One of the things I did rewatching this match was playing it at 4 times speed to save time. A very stark observation you make watching this game at this speed is how crisp Liverpool's passing is. This isn't even Liverpool in good form, but you'll notice that almost the entire team plays great passes to feet or space with the right weight, and the receiving player can normally play a pass first time or control it with a single touch. Spurs on the other hand play passes that bobble around and are hard to control, with moves frequently breaking down before getting into any kind of passing rhythm. I hope what Frank takes from this is that having more ball progressors in the middle of the park is the key to creating more chances, even if that didn't bear fruit in this particular game. Moving on to more shambles, the club's joint sporting director structure and its progressive approach to modern football operations collapses after 3 months, with 2 days before the transfer window opens. Paratici is allegedly leaving the club because they've not allowed him to bring in Leonardo Gabbanini, who was behind the signings of James Maddison, Pedro Porro, Mickey van der Ven, Vicario and Dustin Udogie. Gabbanini specifically fought for Van der Ven, having to overcome reservations like, I don't know, the price is high, he's young and not in the national team. Paul Mitchell is supposedly in the frame, who previously had signed Dele Alli, Alderweireld, Son and Trippier. So hopefully the director of football situation gets resolved quickly. Otherwise we head into another transfer window with no clear person in charge for football signings, especially now that we've also lost our chairman who used to micromanage that aspect of it. And now we don't have the professionals in place to do the signings that we need to do. So what Frank can do for the rest of the season relies a lot upon the reinforcements he can get in this window. And we've literally just lost one of our co-directors of football just before the window. So Spurs until it kills me, I guess.